Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for downloading We Got This with Mark and Hal. If you love the show, now is the time. Max Fun Drive is over. The best way you can show support right now is with a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google, anywhere where you can rate this podcast. I wish you would. It really helps new people find the show. Mark and I really appreciate it, and it's a good opportunity to tell other people what you like about the show and why it's worth a listen. So go ahead and do that, but for now, please enjoy episode 166 of We Got This with Mark and Hal.
Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle once and for all.
Best Broadway musical.
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcast should have a theme song. Podcast should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it. You know what? You're right. We got this.
Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Hal is sitting in my kitchen.
It's true. That's not part of that song.
Nope. It is not. But you know what? We're going to determine today. I'm so excited, you guys. What is the best musical of all time?
Broadway music.
Broadway
it has to
musical.
Run on Broadway.
All right.
And we have somebody else in your kitchen.
Yes, we do. Wait, what?
Yes.
Mr. Tim Rice.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tim Rice himself, Bill Corbett.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, guys. Pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. Thanks for doing this with us.
Oh,
Is it
fun.
You're the Tim Rice of comedy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And that I am intermittently entertaining, but I kind of suck.
You deal in words.
Right.
You chose this.
Yeah, from your list to let people think, I'm too much of a fancy boy, a fancy Broadway boy. But yeah,
Nothing wrong with that.
It is. No, there actually isn't. And, I find it pretty exciting because, I did all the high school musicals. My parents were big fans of music, especially my mom, but my dad, I think we learned later, was really into it too.
Now, where did you grow up?
I grew up in New York, so they got to go see a lot of stuff,
Right.
Across the river there. And, so I grew up on a lot of cast albums.
Right.
It was sort of after the time when those were on the radio, like that used to be what
They used to play them on the radio?
Well, back in the 40s and 50s.
Oh, sure,
those
when
were
they all
some of
became pop tunes.
Those were the pop songs. Yeah. And Hamilton has brought that back in its own way. I mean, my daughter has never seen Hamilton, but she can sing it stem to stern,
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Were you guys cast album guys growing up? Cause I know I was always because I grew up in Tennessee and we didn't always get a chance to see everything. But when a new cast album would come out, I would get it. I would get the liner notes. I would read the synopsis until it gave me the little parenthetical of what the next song was. And then I would listen to the song. Then I'd go back to so I did like my version of trying to get the things. Did you guys grow up with Broadway albums at all?
I definitely did. And, I just sort of by osmosis from my parents. And yeah, they had the liner notes that had the story.
Yeah.
I got to know Man of La Mancha that way. And then
it's so good.
Yeah. And then, things that had movies attached to them, like West Side Story, were pretty easy to follow. But most of them I just know from the cast album.
Right.
Like, what era of Broadway albums did you get?
I was in sort of the golden age of the blockbuster. Like the Broadway before Andrew Lloyd Webber in the 80s was, things would run for a couple of years and then a new show would go in and it was never that these giant mega hits. I mean, Chorus Line was.
And Grease.
And Grease, right. But I grew up on, Les Mis and Cats and Phantom and Miss Saigon and all these shows that ran for a very long time.
Yeah, right.
Or, when you're a kid, you have a weird sense of time. So what, like, my childhood. Well, that was 40 years of Broadway. They ran forever. And I was like, well, some of the shows I loved only ran for a couple of years.
Yeah, right. Which of the cats were you? Were you a Jellicle cat?
We'll get into Cats. I did just go see Cats in New York, twice. On this recent run.
Still running?
No, it's not still running. It's reopened.
Oh, okay.
This is a revival of Cats.
They just do it in a junkyard. An actual one.
And I have buddies there who I like to go see plays with. And, a couple of times it was like, well, what do you want to go see? Well, I don't know. Let's just see what we can get tickets for. Yeah. And you could always get tickets for Cats.
Oh, my God. That's hilarious.
You could always get $20 balcony seats for Cats. Uh-huh. And so we would go and we would, have a couple of drinks
kitty
beforehand.
Cat suits.
It's really adorable to go see Cats.
Your fursonas.
Yeah.
Fursona.
Get in your fursona and get in there.
Oh, I wish I didn't know the word fursona.
It's real.
Yeah.
And it's here to stay, man.
But it is cute to go see Cats.
I think it is.
People make fun of Cats. But it is fun to go see. That's a lot of people's introduction to a Broadway show. Like we would go and you would always see kids there and they'd have their cat ears on and they'd be super excited. And it's like, you know what? The world's going to be okay.
She's dying in a junkyard. Yay, mommy.
Do you think that they like the musical Cats or do you think they like the animal Cats and they're just excited that there's a musical about it? Like they would enjoy the Heathcliff cartoon even though it was okay, not great, but like it's Heathcliff.
Yeah.
It's a cat.
Yeah.
Sure.
Give me any cat I can get at any time.
Yeah.
Even if it's just people in leotards with like patchy fur. Like they all look like they need to go to a vet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They're junkyard cats.
They all have mange.
Yeah.
I love any parent that's like, hey, we like cats. All right, here. Well, watch the beginning of these MGM movies for a while. They got a lion in those.
Right.
Here, I'll make you a VHS tape. Got 40 of them.
And if you like smaller cats, here's Mary Tyler Moore's vanity card. I hope you like that. Just a little cat. It's just a kitty. You love those.
Oh my God.
All right. So let's talk. Is there a certain era that you guys are fans of?
Do you not want to know about the albums I had, Mark?
No,
when I was young?
No, I don't.
You assume I don't know anything about Broadway, but I know two things. No, similar to you, stuff would come into Philadelphia. I saw Phantom of the Opera. I saw Les Mis. Les Mis blew my mind. Number one, because I loved the music. Mm-hmm. I liked it a lot more than Phantom. Phantom, there was always somebody. There were at least like 3 people in your class in like 6th, 7th, 8th grade who had the Phantom of the Opera beach towel. Mm-hmm. And then they would learn to play, they would play the theme song to Cheers. They wouldn't play anything probably, but it was like Phantom
on the
time.
Keyboard. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun.
Like if somebody in the class would always want to sing like Think of Me or something like
Sure.
that. But to me, Les Mis was so sweeping and so epic. Mm-hmm. And I love the revolving portion of the stage that they used to create movement. That one, that blew me away. That was the first musical that I really got into hardcore, listened to it all the time.
Yeah.
Like loved Cole Meany and his performance.
Wilkinson.
Cole Wilkinson.
Yeah.
I also like Cole Meany on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Cole Meany's great when he's in that helicopter in Con Air. And he thinks he's right, but really John Cusack is the one that's right, you guys.
Cole Wilkinson, sure.
Yeah.
And his great song as the helicopter crashes.
Yes. It's so good.
I think the way that we could approach this, tell me what you guys think. We'll have criteria maybe, or we'll just talk about ones we like. We could go by eras, but it feels to me like, and this is a way to talk about different eras, is we can go kind of by the big composers. Cause I think that, we can start looking at, Rodgers and Hammerstein back in the day, or Rodgers and Hart before that. And then, you've got your Sondheims through the 70s and the 80s, brought Andrew Lloyd Webber and Schoenberg and Boublil. And, then now you've got Lin-Manuel and you've got Benj Pasek and Ben Paul doing crazy stuff. I feel like, do you think that our number one winner is going to come from one of these big guns?
I suspect so, but.
And if so, let's mention a few that may not make the list that, that we love.
Let's start off where musical theater has always been headed, with Bono and the Edge.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark.
Yeah, can we talk about that?
I was so excited
Most
when they had to
actors
stop.
Killed. I think that is worth something.
Oh my God. I saw that show and I thought, oh, I can see why. Okay. There are cables everywhere.
Did you actually see
I
it?
did.
Oh my God.
I saw it and they had to stop the show.
Yeah.
In the middle of the show because Spider-Man and Arachne, got their cables twisted up together.
Oh
so they're
God.
just dangling on stage, waving at the audience and sort of,
Hi.
being coy with audience members like, hey, yep.
We'll resume
here we
turning
are.
off the dark in a second. We're kind
We turn on the dark for
We've got it on a dimmer.
I feel like the people who go to see Spider-Man Turn on the Dark are a different kind of audience. Cause
Yeah.
I would go like, is this, like, I don't want anybody to get hurt.
Right.
But I would like to see, like, Spider-Man stop half swing and then just
Yeah.
be left hanging there like,
Yeah.
all right, I don't know how to deal with this. I want things to come to full stop at least 3 times in a
Right,
show I go
right.
see.
Oh.
Nobody to be seriously hurt.
I did a deep dive on that musical one day, cause I found myself in an internet spiral reading articles about it. Do you guys know the story of Julie Taymor and this show?
Yes.
That she wanted it to be all about the ancient Greek goddess Arachne. And
I didn't know
the
that.
producers were like, no, this is about Spider-Man. And she wanted it to be all about, this ancient goddess who came in the form of a spider. So, you can find online emails traded back and forth
Oh my
between
God,
the
yeah.
producers and Bono and the Edge. Like, guys, what are we going to do? Like, Julie Taymor is amazing when she has constraints put on her.
Right.
But when left to her own
Yeah.
devices.
She was drunk with power after the Lion King
Exactly.
did so well,
Let's talk about The Lion King.
Sure.
Why not?
Yeah.
Did you guys see that show?
I have to say I did not.
Nope.
But no.
It's,
We're really qualified
Yeah.
for this topic.
You
but you know the what
Yeah,
they
I
did
do.
with
Yeah.
it. With the,
And it looked like an awesome translation to me. Like,
Yeah.
theatricalized in a way you would not expect from Disney.
yeah, it's cool that
And they went along with it.
yeah, they did the, we're not going to make it look like the movie.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah.
Cause a lot of times when something's based on source material, they try to make it look exactly like
Right.
the old version. I just saw Amelie on Broadway last year. And we talked about this in the show, recently, Groundhog Day, which both are very fun, but they just look like the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Amelie had a woman from Hamilton.
Mhm.
Right?
Philippa Sue.
Yeah.
Who's
My
fantastic. in
daughter's
it.
hero.
Yeah. So let's talk about, let's go back. Let's start and why don't we pull our favorites from each of these great composers? Maybe pull one wild card from the not quite so great ones.
Okay.
And then we'll go from there and those will be our finalists.
Yeah. Can I talk a little bit about what I think makes a good, as someone who's not, like, you're a musical freak. You're super into it.
Clearly I was
Yeah.
real excited about this episode. I'm a super nerd for this stuff.
As someone who has come to enjoy them later in his life,
Mm-hmm.
because I did not like, in college particularly, I could not, I lived with musical theater majors for 4
that'll
years.
really mess you up. Yeah.
And
Everywhere you go, there's a song for it.
yeah, it's a lot of like come into the room with a flourish, like
Yeah.
I'm ready for your attention.
Hey,
But
hey, I don't have any cash on me. You got a single? One singular sensation. Every little step she takes.
I'm gonna sleep on the porch tonight.
You should have just had a super soaker that you
Yeah.
carried at every moment. Anytime somebody broke into the song, just
hose them down like they're the cat. Like they're the Jellicle
stop
cat.
it.
Here was my problem with musicals
Uh-huh.
at that time, is that they felt disingenuous to me. That there was a misunderstanding. Like, I don't know how to portray an emotional moment, so we'll put a song in because that's the only way to express it. Whereas in life, very rarely are you like, things are going well at work. You don't do
Right.
that. You express it in different ways. And I was more interested then at seeing how can you explore it when you don't have a song. Now,
Right.
since then, and there are a lot of musicals that I think still, to me, suffer because of that.
Uh-huh.
But there are others that will move me to tears, that make me feel things that I like, that I get engrossed in. And that to me is really like the songs are engrossing, and there's a timelessness to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the stuff from this, and I like stuff from the 70s and early 80s, but when I listen to it, especially listening to the original Cast album, it sounds like it was made exactly when it was made. And,
Right.
And it will not, the music of Cats sounds like it was made in 1982.
Oh yeah.
When you listen to it,
it's
in
very Thomas
2018.
Dolby.
Yeah. But like something like The Music Man, which is a musical made about a time before the musical was done, feels more like, that feels like classic Broadway rather than, I can tell you that was exactly in 1957 or 58, whenever the original cast was performing it.
Right.
That there's a timelessness to it. I think that Hamilton will prove to be timeless in that it imports a musical genre that hasn't gotten as much. It's not the first hip hop musical.
No.
I don't think, but it's certainly one that has exploded into the mainstream in a very important way. So it's opened up hip hop to people who might not be open to it. It's opened up people to learn about American history. Like that to me is a top contender for those reasons, even though it's very young. We don't have the lens of history to view it with yet.
Do you think that it's more important for a musical to be timeless or for it to speak to its time?
Well, I think the great ones do both, don't they?
Yeah, it does give some that we'll be considering here an unfair advantage, I suppose, because, we've seen that they've lasted, whereas it's harder to know with Hamilton. It's harder to know with one that I am going to bring up, Fun Home. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Of course,
I saw it in San Francisco. I thought it was so wonderful. But who knows if it'll be remembered or done in a couple of years.
Right.
So
it's going to be done by small theater companies forever because it's a small cast. You can do it in the round. You don't need a big set.
Yeah, and even as I'm saying this, I'm realizing that might not even be a Broadway musical, huh?
Oh no, it was on Broadway.
Okay.
Yeah. It actually, they held off the opening of Hamilton on Broadway so that Fun Home, because they knew Fun Home was great.
Yeah,
it was the same producers. They knew Fun Home was great. And they knew that Hamilton was going to be this epic juggernaut. Yeah. So they held off the opening of Hamilton until after the cutoff date for the Tonys so that both of them could win Best Musical in 2 successive years, which wound up happening.
Yeah. So I don't know what to say about, posterity or the test of time, except that, it does sort of weed out the ones from the 50s and 60s that were net because they just haven't hung around. And I substantially agree with what you said about the 60s and 70s. Like the Cats, there was one song that everybody covered. It was Memory, and Barbra Streisand did a great version of it and all that. But outside of that, not a lot going on with story. I mean, it's sort of a review in its own way.
Yes.
Yeah. And that gets to something that I like in a musical is a good story. And that's, my writer's bias, but it does not seem in tension with great music, great dancing. Like the ones that I like have everything, baby. They're a quadruple threat,
Yeah. Well, that one of the all-time greats, and this gets me back to going and looking back at in these big chunks of the great musical composers.
Superman the Musical.
From the 60s.
Sorry, It's a Bird, It's a Plane, it's Superman.
Yes, my mistake.
You look
in the tradition of awkwardly named.
Was that the name of the musical? It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman.
Yeah.
3 exclamation points?
At least.
You know what they missed? If they'd had Arachne in that one, I think it would have been much more popular.
Oh man, guys, do yourselves a favor and go look at these emails. It's hilarious.
Oh, I can't wait.
But looking back, speaking of musicals with exclamation points, Oklahoma broke all kinds of new ground when it came out. But really, when you look at the story of Oklahoma, it's just, who's she gonna go to the dance with?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the whole premise of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And there's intrigue and, small town, things and a dream ballet.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not a ton of story there.
Yeah, with Oklahoma, that was a top contender for me because I just have such good memories of it, and the music is so good.
The songs are undeniably Americana.
And for
at
the
this
people
point.
who don't aren't that familiar with it, that is what Mark opened the show with. Oh, what a beautiful morning.
That's right.
And explain what was revolutionary about that.
Yes, we were talking about this at dinner the other night. So there's a great book out now about, or great doc out about, Rodgers and Hammerstein. And, one thing I learned from that I thought was cool was every show up until this point had a big, huge opening number. That was how they opened shows, was you saw your big opening number and then the show started.
Yeah. Right.
But this just began with Curly walking on stage and singing a song as a woman was doing laundry out in the middle of the Dust Bowl.
Right.
And it blew audiences' minds that this is what they would do.
Right.
And to have those, I guess something benefits from being revolutionary just because it's the first. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
shows were eventually going to have to do that, right? Theater was going to eventually have to grow and change in the way that Hamilton has grown and changed theater. But this one had the benefit of being the first. Now, is that the Rodgers and Hammerstein one that is the best Rodgers and Hammerstein musical?
It's South Pacific is one of theirs.
South Pacific is one of theirs. King and I is one of theirs. Carousel.
My Fair Lady, one of theirs.
My Fair Lady is,
No.
I'm not sure.
Lerner and Lowe.
Lerner and Lowe.
I think.
They did Cinderella.
Cinderella Turn Off the Dark.
Yeah. Remember when Cinderella got her wires crossed up?
Do you guys prefer a news story, a true story, or a source material story?
I don't think it matters to me as long as it's well told and, integrated with the other values.
Right on.
Yeah. My top four are a mix. There's an adapted story. There is a somewhat original story, a parody of an existing form, and then just a retelling of a story that's already been, there was a retelling of another Broadway show that was a retelling of a classic story.
Right on. Mm-hmm. All right. Do you want to, it sounds like you guys have, I didn't have a list. I was going to go.
I have a list of names, but
I'm so curious. You've got a laptop in front of you and all I can see is the back of it and the little glowing logo. And how you've got your list of four.
No, Nanette over and over again.
That's it. You know what? That is if you're a New York Yankees fan, that is your favorite show of all time.
Oh man. I don't know if it was actually used or if it was one of their, rejected ones, but Second City had No Wilmette. Was one of their old review names. All right.
Do you want to talk about the ones that you've been in and what or is that just a diversion?
Well, we can talk about
what you maybe learned from that?
Yeah, you guys have done music. You did your musicals in high school. Which ones did you do?
Well, I did a sort of an eccentric bunch. Camelot was one I did in sophomore year, which I think is extremely good, right up there. I was Sir Dinadan, who's just one of the knights who gets clobbered by Lancelot and makes Guinevere love him. And Lil Abner in junior year, which was it's a weird one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, I don't think it really stands the test of time, but it's got some good satirical moments about,
right.
Surprisingly topical at the time about the military industrial complex, believe it or not, and beauty and Madison Avenue.
All in the form of a musical based on a comic
About
strip.
hillbillies, yeah.
Yeah.
But the one I did in senior year that I was actually the star of was Destry Rides Again, which is a musical version of the Jimmy Stewart movie. It only ran for about a year and a half on Broadway, and it starred Andy Griffin in the Jimmy Stewart part.
I've never even heard this musical.
Nobody
That's great.
has, and it actually has quite good music.
Who wrote the music for it?
Harold Rome.
I don't know Harold Rome.
He never got up there with the greats, but I think he's known for something else called Pins and Needles
about standing up off the couch after watching 2 movies in a row.
Yeah, it was a thin premise to say the least. No, I think it's something about garment workers. It's like, so yeah.
I thought it was the same person who wrote the musical Restless Leg ! Which is, that was my fifth. Didn't make the top 4.
My mom called me real serious one day to let me know that she had restless leg syndrome.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I feel like that one's made up.
Yeah, Mom.
I feel like that was a cure looking for a disease.
Yeah. Pharmaceutical company got bored one
Shout
day,
out to anyone out there who has restless leg syndrome, and my apologies.
and we will do a fundraiser for you.
Yes.
Broadway Cares, Equity Fights Restless Leg Syndrome.
You know what? You have to do a Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
restless leg.
I'm kicking and starting all the time, whether I like it or not.
Seriously, sending love and light to your mother.
Oh, thank you. I'll let her know.
Mark, you've been in a ton of musicals.
Yeah, I did a lot of musicals. One that it has a specific place in my heart that I've done twice now. There's a couple musicals I've done twice. One is, and we'll get to, he's one of the greats, is Sondheim. I did Into the Woods twice. And I love Into the
play?
Woods.
Baker?
No, I played,
Wolfie?
the Wolf and Cinderella's Prince.
Nice range.
Yeah.
Look at you.
You're a sexual and romantic threat.
That's right. And a jerk on both accounts.
Triple threat.
That's right.
Jerk, sexual, romantic.
But I love that. I love, Fiddler on the Roof. I think that's one of the all-time greats.
Absolutely
The music
on my
is,
top. Yeah.
the music is beautiful. The story's amazing. The journey that you go on
Yep.
in that, it's partly, I mean, it's based on true things that happened in the Shalom Aleichem stories.
Yeah.
And, let's see, what else did I did the Aladdin musical at Disneyland for ever and ever. Which I was pretty proud of. Our version of that did not look just like the movie, which was really cool.
Yeah, it was really good. I saw
It was designed to look like an old 1950s musical, which is why all the sets were really flat.
Oh, cool.
Which I thought was cool. I'm trying to think of other musicals I've done. They'll come to me as we go.
Yeah.
We'll start talking about one and I'll be like, oh, I did that show. I did a medley when I was in a show choir. I did a medley from Cats, and everyone wore unitards, and cause they didn't want to put expensive costumes on us. We all wore unitards and little fur wrist and ankle things. And
God in heaven, I hope you have pictures.
Yeah.
somewhere I have pictures
Get
of
it
that.
on your website.
Yeah, please get those pictures and we will share it in the Facebook group.
If you guys ever do a pledge drive, that is one of the prizes. That you
That's
perform that medley in that costume.
That's right.
Oh, next year's Max Fun Drive.
I'll do that. I'll do the medley.
We'll set a stretch goal and you will perform.
One of the earlier stretch goals can be I shave my head and do the King and I, which I did in high school, realizing now I was basically doing it in, I guess it's kind of blackface.
Oh dear.
Cause I was playing the King of Siam.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I am a white guy
Asian
from
face.
Tennessee.
Well, that's how it
Yeah.
started. I mean, Yul Brynner was, what was he, Armenian or something? But he was
I'm not sure.
Russian, but he was not. He was not.
It's me, the
South
King of
Asian.
Siam.
Yeah.
Here I am.
But I loved that show. Music Man I did a couple of times.
Did you play Harold?
No, I understudied Winthrop when I was a kid.
Okay.
And then, I was just in the ensemble.
He'd be a great professor.
I'd love to play Harold Hill.
Harold Hill. Henry Hill. From Goodfellas.
From Goodfellas.
Remember when I was young, I
schmuck.
wanted to be a music man.
You guys remember when Cole Meany played Henry Hill in The Music Man?
People didn't sell music. We thought they were schnooks. They were losers.
And, so I grew up loving and doing musicals all the time. And there's still some that there are musical roles that I would love to play that I never got a chance. Do you guys have those? Is there a role in a musical that you're like, I'd love to play that guy?
I am not probably enough of a singer to do this, but in terms of something that I could do given my age now, Man of La Mancha. Don Quixote. That is one of my special favorites. I'm not sure how it has fared in the pantheon of great musicals over the years, but I just love it.
That show to me I just saw it in Washington DC. I saw the National Theater production. They got Anthony Warlow to come from Australia, who's an opera singer. And I had never seen it. I'd seen the movie, but I'd never seen the play.
The movie's a weird version.
It is a
of that,
weird version. But the play is weird. It takes place inside
It does
this
have
prison.
a framing device.
But it's so good.
I find the end extremely touching.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a beautiful, beautiful story. It's the themes that it explores of, imagination and rising above and love and chivalry and all these.
And the counterpoint to that is like, what are you, crazy? And,
Yeah, exactly.
That's a bunch of BS.
Sancho Panza with his, look, I'm just going to stick by this guy's side because I believe him a good person. So I'll do what I can. Shout out to A Noise Within, putting on a production of that. They're bringing back their production from last year, and they're doing it in the fall. It's really exciting. I actually have the little thing for it on my fridge.
Which you can see here.
Which you can see right here.
Everybody take a look.
Everyone take a look.
Right, my left.
Yep,
Could you go to
can see
camera
it.
3, please? Thank you.
Camera 3 live.
All right, so let's get back to our
Mark,
master list.
I've not talked about the musicals I've been in. Or the role I want to play. You are trying to bypass me because you think I don't know anything about musicals. Here's why. Because I didn't like Andrew Lloyd Webber when we were at dinner.
And I tried to get him to change the topic for today.
We're not going to do it. He got very bratty, very fast.
I did not get very bratty.
We're not doing it. I'm serious.
Wasn't that you said, all right, Hal, what?
No, I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, let's
what
move on
musicals?
I think you do, buddy.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah,
I
what
was
musicals?
in Oliver. When I learned not to walk into a damn sign when you're playing an orphan, I smacked headfirst into the sign that said orphanage on it. Second night, and I really wanted to play Artful Dodger, but didn't.
Who did you play?
I was faceless orphan.
Injured orphan. Head injury orphan.
Yeah, I played concussion victim number 2. I was
someone else. Also, you didn't even get to be number 1.
No, I was number 5 on the concussion call sheet. It was really bad. I was in Homeroom, which is a little known musical that's probably just for kids. Is There Life After High School?
Is that a song in Homeroom, or is that a musical?
That is another musical.
Was it on Broadway?
I think it was on Broadway.
I think I saw that in my little Wikipedia review. I was like, what is that?
It's not. You're fine. You're good. You're good. But I did the Apple Tree my senior year of high school. That was great. That was really, really fun.
I don't know the Apple Tree. Is that Adam and Eve?
The Apple Tree is 3 stories. It's Adam and Eve, which is adapted from Mark Twain. I think they're all Mark Twain. It's that, The Lady and the Tiger, and Passionella. It's 3 parts. Mm-hmm. And then on Broadway,
Passionella, I have a Passionella candle in the living room.
There you go. That's the same. They're still making money off of that show. Can you believe it? Ka-ching. But Alan Alda and Barbara Harris played the leads in all 3 parts. So in the traditional Broadway version, the same actors play the leads in all 3. Mm-hmm. In ours, to accommodate a larger cast, everybody.
That's a real jerk move if a high school goes, okay, our spring musical this year, we're doing the last 5 years. There's 2 characters.
But I was Adam in the first story. I was Adam in the Adam and Eve story.
Right. Were you naked?
There's video of it. No, I'm in a blue. I wore white boxers over tighty whities and a white t-shirt that both had been dyed blue and dyed blue socks. And it is, I'm pretty sure I've shared this on We Got This on the Facebook group. If not, I will again. There's a YouTube video of me performing one of the songs from it. It is I know we're not selling this today, but the worst performance of a Broadway musical song of all time is that video of me.
What's the logic of the strange dyed blue wardrobe for Adam?
Because I was blue and then
was she pink?
She wore pink, matching outfit.
Oh, fight the patriarchy, Hal.
It was 1994. We were nowhere near as woke as we are now.
Oh man, that makes me feel like such an old man that you're like, look, it was way back in 1994.
And meanwhile, we're talking about it being 2018 and Carousel is going through another revival.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that show.
I saw that in college and I was like, wait a minute. Why do we hold in any reverence this musical where a man beats on a woman and then we're supposed to cheer for his ghost?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is an abysmal story and it is wonderful music. That's the dilemma. But I remember I knew the music from my mom playing it so often growing up. Then I liked My Boy Bill. I was like, that's me.
Yeah. That song though, I can't get behind that song. The
overture is beautiful and everything. But yeah, the story is miserable and just takes it right off the list.
My Boy Bill is a 40-minute song.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Boy, that song is long.
I was a little narcissist. As long as you kept saying my name, I was happy.
There you go. You're watching Schoolhouse Rock going, I'm just a Bill.
So here's what I suggest.
Okay.
I feel like we've talked a lot about musicals in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's take a break and then we come back. We can go through some of these great composers, but I have a feeling if we each go through our top 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to touch on their work, and then we'll get
Yeah,
into
I think
it
you're
as we
right.
go.
I'm realizing that we don't know enough about.
This is expansive.
This is we can't narrow it down to just that. So.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's what we'll do when we come back after this. Welcome everyone to the live wrestling spectacular in Los Angeles.
So far, the world's most boring wrestling podcast has been destroying the competition.
Isn't there anyone who can save us from this travesty? Wait, could it be?
It's Tights and Fights, the perfect wrestling podcast.
Tights and Fights is here to save us from the monotony of boring wrestling podcasts with hilarious conversations.
Woke trips through the history of wrestling.
And joke about the finer points of people wearing spandex. What a match!
And the Tights and Fights podcast will be back every week.
Thursdays on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get podcasts. Please, these hosts have families.
Tights and Fights Podcast. Tights and Fights.
Chaotic Bro.
Natural Jaeger.
Picosby.
Mount Armus.
The USS Entrepreneur.
Dustbuster Club.
Drunk Shimoda. What are we talking about? Some of the many delightful nonsenses that are now important running gags in the Star Trek podcast we still can't believe we're actually making.
The Greatest Generation is a show that is reviewing Star Trek The Next Generation episode by episode, but it's much sillier and has more fart jokes than that makes it sound.
Our reputations may never recover. You can get our show at MaximumFun.org or wherever you download podcasts.
All right.
We're back.
Let's go through. I think we should go around and each do one of our top 4. Let's just throw them out, a brief
I've got a
explanation
top
of why.
50.
Well, you got to pick 4 of them, buddy.
This is going to be such a hard episode.
You wanted to do this topic.
I know.
And guess what? The winner will be better than every other musical you love.
Aww.
This is what, and this is a lesson for all of you out there who listen. Don't ask for questions. Don't ask questions you don't want the answers to.
You're basically calling every other musical garbage.
Yeah,
that's
just,
fair.
Just know that.
And they can never be mounted anywhere again.
No.
I do want to quickly say, well, no, I'll bring it up later because it's one of my top 4. Bill, you're our guest. Tell us one of your top 4.
Yeah, I think this might be my top 1 is West Side Story. I just grew up with it, loved it. I was fanatical about it. It seems to have the combination of great storytelling, thanks Shakespeare, wonderful music, and a variety of music, and a sense of humor. And I would add, I don't know if this is a fair criteria, but really great dancing. You know,
that's a
in any
huge criteria.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
just hard to judge if you haven't seen something. That is probably number 1. I'd say Fiddler on the Roof for very similar reasons. Hamilton, because it's right in my noggin these days. It's all over my house because my kids are playing it. And The Music Man, which I think is maybe a bit of a thin story for my taste, but it is so clever. And the more you listen to the music, the more I listen to it, the more I appreciate it. So that's 4 of the tops for me.
Wow.
That's an impressive list.
3 of your top 4 are also 3 of my top 4.
Goodness.
West Side Story was my mother's favorite musical growing up, and also is the greatest live show I've ever seen. And I forget if I've told this story again. Apologies. If you're new to the show, you get to hear it for the first time. I went to visit one of my best friends, Lauren, at Ithaca College. I went to Syracuse, and a friend of hers was doing West Side Story, but I think it was like a student theater group. It wasn't like an official production. And as we're going there after dinner, she's like, so they decided when they were doing the show, they weren't going to choreograph any of the fights because they wanted it to feel real and improvised.
Oh boy.
I was at show number 2.
Oh, jeez.
Half of the cast was on crutches at a cast. And when it came time for the fights, they looked like a middle school dance where they were like very didn't really want to touch anybody, and they were all scared. They were like frozen. It is the most delicious.
That's great.
I mean, it's just beautiful. But the songs are great.
Yeah.
The story is great. This is the one that was adapted from a show called East Side Story, which was about religious Jews. Instead of
it's
instead of just Americans, I think it's religious Jews and Puerto Ricans which is why it's East Side Story, which of course all of it is Romeo and Juliet. It's a retelling of Romeo and Juliet.
East Side Story was
East Side
adapted
Story was first. West Side
East Side Story was first?
Yes.
It was
what?
rescored by the Pet Shop Boys.
Yes, that's right. Come on down to the stage. That is something. East Side Story. But yeah,
when you're a jet all the way from your first cigarette to your last dying day. Da 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 da.
But it's just an incredible story.
Yeah.
It's still relevant. That idea that there are socioeconomic and cultural barriers between us.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the reason why it endures.
Mm-hmm.
And all the songs. Maria, I Feel Pretty, or I look,
that's how I start my
America.
morning every day.
Just singing
I look
I
in
Feel
the
Pretty?
mirror and it's
Yeah.
it gets me going.
Yeah.
Or you saying about liking America better than Puerto Rico?
No, I feel pretty. And I would add that it's Stephen Sondheim at his best lyrically.
Yeah.
And another composer. It's before he started writing music. It's Leonard Bernstein, and they really complement each other well.
Boy.
And Bernstein exploring like the sort of beat jazz idiom in songs like Cool, just like so I don't know, experimental seems a little strong, but like creatively adventurous.
Yeah.
And Sondheim is, funny. And he gets pretty austere later on in his career in a way that I don't always go with. But, here he was just young and full of, piss and vinegar, and his lyrics are great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Hamilton is also in my top 4 for you laid out great reasons. Another thing that none of us have touched on is that it brings diversity to Broadway and to theater in a way that it isn't typically.
Yeah.
And it's hopefully will continue a trend in people who are not Lin-Manuel Miranda casting shows. They're like, it doesn't matter. You can cast colorblind. You can cast gender blind. None of that matters. What matters is telling a great story in the best possible way with, the people who fit the roles. And
the funniest Petruchio I ever saw was a black woman.
Yes, exactly. It's the idea that this show, I think it's going to be a watershed moment for Broadway and hopefully entertainment in general to help sort of break down some of those barriers, a lot of which I know are still up. It doesn't solve the problem, but at least it helps crack the door open.
I totally agree. I confess I haven't seen Hamilton yet. We're going next month in Chicago, and I'm very excited about it.
Oh, you're going to have the best time.
Yeah. And I was a little skeptical at first, just the way I am about anything that everybody tells me is great. There's this grumpy troll part of me that's like, it can't be that good. But then my kids got into it and singing, and my daughter's explaining the motifs that are coming back and the Easter eggs, and even Easter eggs to other shows. Like there's a little tribute to 1776, the musical in there, among other. And it's like, wow, this is layered.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I was torn between The Music Man and Guys and Dolls because I love Guys and Dolls.
Oh yeah.
But ultimately, The Music Man for me is so enjoyable. The amount of just spoken patter in it, I feel like it breaks up a lot of what I would hear in a traditional musical.
It was the first rap musical.
In a way,
it was.
With a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool.
Yeah. But even the beginning of 76 Trombones, he's talking and doing patter. And I mean, it's really Matthew Broderick's version was fine, but
Robert Preston.
Yeah.
So...
And when you get a role like that somebody who's kind of idiosyncratic, like Robert Preston, can just sink his teeth into and make an immortal performance. That's a good bit of writing. Also, something I just learned this year is that what's the romantic song that Shirley Jones in the movie sings out the window? Good
night, my someone.
Yeah.
That is virtually the same tune as 76 Trombones. If it's like slowed down version of that.
76 trombones led the big parade.
Wow.
110
Yeah. And it's like, that is,
oh, wow.
I love that layered writing like that.
So clever. My fourth is Avenue Q, which when I went to see it in 2008, completely blew my mind. That was actually that was the musical that got me back into the genre. I was like, oh, this has broken every rule and like almost spit in the face of what Broadway is, while also taking great care to make a great Broadway show. And it's like the fact that you see these performers working puppets and you don't look at the performers.
Right.
You very quickly adjust and you're watching the puppets is a testament not only to their skill, but just the way they tell the story. Like you relate to it. The one issue with it may be that
Gary Coleman died and he's a character in it.
Dead. No, that idea, like they really poke fun at what it means to be politically correct and the things that are and are not offensive. I don't know how well that plays 10 years later.
Yeah.
It is a different climate. I don't think that rules it out, but I think it's just like, it's just a really great musical. It's not for all ages. That might be the other thing that kind of cuts it off. But it was like magical. It inspired me.
It's
I was
wonderful.
like, what can I go create after seeing that show? And that to me is like, that's a religious experience.
I loved Avenue Q. A friend with one of the guys who was in it, Rob McClure, who just was in Something Rotten, which is another one of those musicals where I say it's not one of the greatest of all time, but it is so good at comedy, which is so hard to do. And I just appreciate it that it's funny from stem to stern. But I would probably put on that list of maybes the genre bending Book of Mormon probably before Avenue Q for me, because I just never stopped laughing. It's the same composer, Bobby Lopez, who's wrote Frozen as well. But I think I want a little more of a substantial meal to be the greatest of all time,
of course,
all the while loving those super entertaining ones. And earlier, funny thing happened on the way to the Forum, which I just love, but is, a big comedy.
Yes.
Which I have no objection to. But.
They don't feel as substantial, but they are like, weirdly, Book of Mormon is doing an important thing. Like its comment on religion is both its pros and its cons is so, like you leave Book of Mormon not only having just laughed your ass off for a very long time, because it's just a really, really funny show. It's written by the South Park guys, for God's sake. But you leave going, oh, okay, you've somehow made an argument both for and against the thing that this show is about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's strange how it never feels mean-spirited like their show sometimes does. But it's just, and it's kind of technically smart. The flashbacks to Joseph Smith in the desert. And I mean, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But not the best.
No.
It's tough for a comedy to get into the pantheon of, the all time because if a musical is designed to, they say, like you were talking about before, oh, this moment is too full that I can't express it just in words. I have to express it in song.
Right.
Comedy can be done in words.
Yeah.
Funny songs are the best, and I love all of these musicals. But it feels like to get that real emotional resonance, it's more the dramatic stuff.
I think I would feel the same way though about something that was super serious, like some of Sondheim stuff. He's never without wit and wordplay, but like passion, stuff like that.
Right.
It's just like, it's a little too austere for me.
Right.
A little too joyless. Like, where are the jokes, son?
I was watching, and I love the show, but I was watching a Law and Order episode, and I remember thinking this just recently, going, wow, they do not bother with comic relief on this show, do they? Like, you gotta have some levity somewhere in a thing.
Since Jerry Orbach died and he got his final cut to commercial line, that's the final popcorn he's popped,
Jerry Orbach. That's one of the all-time great musical performers right there, Jerry Orbach.
Sure.
If you haven't have you guys seen him do Basketball? You know the song?
Yes, because that was one of the
She
first
Loves Me.
albums.
Or what's it from?
No, it's from Promises.
Mm-hmm.
Which was an adaptation of The Apartment, the Billy Wilder movie. And that was one of the first ones that came on my radar because my parents saw it live in the 70s and played it all the time. And it's like, she likes basketball. How about that? So yeah, he's,
watch his Tony performance of that.
Oh,
it
wow.
is
Yeah.
incredible. Oh, shout out to Jerry Orbach.
Jerry. Gone too soon.
All right, is it my turn?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to put, these are all going to be like, they're big juggernauts and these aren't my personal favorites, but these are the ones that I think could be up there for the best musical of all time. I'm not going to mention the ones you guys have already mentioned. Not that I don't agree with them, but if we had 3 top 4 lists that everybody had 3 of the same musicals on,
then we'd know our top 3.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we could get out of here and have some coffee.
Yeah, jeez.
Would you like some coffee?
No.
I can make you a cup of coffee.
No, he doesn't get it until he's done podcasting, Mark. We said this before we started.
Closers.
There are, and I know you are not a fan of this guy, but I have to say I grew up on Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Sure.
I think he's a brilliant tunesmith. There are problems with his shows, of course. Cats is silly and, Starlight Express is ridiculous. But he's written some pretty amazing songs and done some really incredible work. So I didn't want to let my list slip by without putting at least one of his shows on there. And that one I think I'm going to go with is, Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yep. I think that's the one you make the case with for
it's
Mr. Weber.
It's a wonderful musical. It's a story that everyone knows, told from an angle that not a lot of people at the time would have known from. You know what I mean? Like it was weird that it was just on NBC Live because it was super controversial back in the day.
Yeah.
So Jesus Christ Superstar is on my list. And maybe this is just because I saw the original Broadway cast of it, but I always loved Rent. I was a big Rent head.
Wow.
Rent, I think, is great. I think it told, again, took a story and told, an angle that wasn't getting told. Plus I got to see, Adam Pascal and Wilson Germain Heredia and all these like great performers do the original. Idina Menzel. So,
or what did John Travolta call her?
Adela Dazeem.
Adela Dazeem.
Yeah. Speaking of John Travolta, I don't think it's the best because the story's not hugely great, but boy, is the music in Grease amazing.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah.
So shout out to Grease.
Yeah.
I've got to say Les Mis because Les Miserables is one of those musicals that I've seen it live probably 5 or 6 times. I know every note of that show. I think it's sweeping. I think it's fun. There's comedy in it with the Thénardiers. There's obviously the ultimate pathos in it with this, sweeping novel. It's stirring. It's uplifting. I think the revolving set was an amazing thing. Jesus Christ Superstar, Rent, Les Mis, and again, just because this is one that I loved as a kid, and we've actually talked about this one extensively, but not the Broadway musical. We talked about the movie. I would put Hair on the list.
Oh, wow.
It's not a great story, but it's the first time I ever was in a theater and felt an experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You saw naked people.
No,
people don't get naked.
People get naked in that, yeah.
Oh,
Depends on the production.
Okay.
I actually saw a community theater production of it that when I left, I was like, oh my God, this is like, I felt like I was in a place, in a time. The songs are great, but I know it's not going to win because it really does not have a story at all. The movie they invented a story for
which
because
still
it had no
wasn't a very good story.
They tried.
But I love the music.
R.I.P. Milos.
The music is surprisingly great for Hair, given that those guys were just tripping every day. Les Mis is one that I came to kind of late after, again, that grumpy old man thing of like resisting. Everybody that I did theater with, especially I went to theater grad school, Les Mis all the time. Everybody was singing it all the time. I was like, I don't think I like this. And I perceived it as not being very funny despite the tavern owners. What are their names?
The Thénardiers.
Yeah.
But the more I've seen it, the more I respect it. And it's ambitious in a great way.
Yeah.
It takes on big themes and, you know, just like the book itself, but it condenses very well. I think there's some great, like, psychosexual stuff going on underneath it about men and their relationship with each other. And even the movie, which was, you know, didn't have the greatest voices all the time with Russell Crowe just like choking his way through those songs. It still kind of communicated it in a good way. And, so yeah, respect for Les Mis.
Oh, I have one more I want to throw on. I just thought of because I think it deserves a shout out. Because of the way it was created, is a chorus line. I think a chorus line is unique and fun and cool. Do you guys know how they made this? I
actually don't. No.
The creator of the show, whose name is, I'm an idiot. Was it Hamlish that did it?
Hamlish was the composer.
Yeah.
Right? Was it James Lapine?
I'm not sure which of the team did it.
It was created by Arachne, the spider.
She did a lot of good work.
They sat down and they recorded a group of Broadway ensemble people, the chorus line, and they sat down and they just had them tell their stories with a tape recorder going, and all of those stories became the musical.
Oh wow!
So those stories are all
Nice.
Yeah, I think they did.
Nice.
That's a big push right now, to get, the people who originate a role to get some percentage of the show in perpetuity, which I think is a cool idea. Yeah. I know Lin-Manuel mentioned something about being into that.
Good for him. He's a mensch.
He's great. Let me throw this idea at you guys.
Yeah.
We've never really done it this way before to make our determinations. How about this? We each have given our lists of 4. Why don't we pull a number 1 from a list that is not our own? So like Hal and I will pull a number 1 from your list. You and I will pull a number 1 from Hal's list.
Okay.
And then you and Hal will pull a number 1 from my list. And those will be our final 3. We'll pick our number 1 out of that.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Let's go. Let's start with Bill's. Hal, what do you think?
I think it's West Side Story.
I absolutely think it's West Side Story.
Our list was pretty similar.
Our list was similar. The only difference was I had Avenue Q.
Right.
But my other 3 were West Side Story, Hamilton, and The Music Man.
Oh, Hamilton or The Music Man. Let's say Hamilton. Just
I think,
yeah.
All right.
To not just all be in mid 20th century.
Right. Yeah. And then, from my list, mine were, Jesus Christ Superstar, Les Mis, Rent, and, Hair.
Les Mis.
Les Mis.
100%, yeah.
All right. So our final 3, Les Mis, West Side Story, and Hamilton.
So many people are throwing their phone in a garbage.
I know.
That's what I love about this. This is what we do.
Yeah, this is, I'm sorry, I could talk about these a million shows all day.
Before we do that, you want to do a quick breeze through of other like honorable mentions, like just maybe mention their name?
Absolutely.
All right. I have a couple. Well, we already mentioned Oklahoma. I would mention Candide, another, Bernstein joint.
The best of all possible musicals.
Miss Saigon.
How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying.
Yeah.
Surprisingly clever and substantial. Pippin, which I don't have Godspell on there. That seems like a little bit niche, but Pippin is really quite great.
Oh, yeah. And a great ending.
Yeah. And Fun Home, although that might be a little bit small, but I would also put on 1776. It's not for everybody.
White Hamilton?
What's that? White Hamilton. Yeah. White pre-Hamilton. Because I just loved it and thought I learned a lot. I don't know. The tunes, there's nothing that comes away from that, that you remember as well. So maybe musically not, but storytelling wise and structure wise, really great. What do you guys have?
Sunday in the Park with George.
Yeah. There's a lot of Sondheim.
I just like the idea that they're in a painting complaining about how hot it is. It's just so. And actually, that was how Nelly came up with Hot in Here, because he was a huge Sondheim fan.
And a huge Seurat
particularly
fan.
Sunday in the Park with George.
Wow.
It's totally true. Did not make that up.
Right on. Any others you got?
Geez. I love Assassins. I feel like I'm in a minority enjoying that. I think it's darkly humorous. And I like the way that they tackle something that's extremely sensitive and like kind of taboo. Yeah. So I think that's my favorite. That's my favorite Sondheim, because I I know he worked on West Side Story,
Yeah.
but it doesn't feel like a Sondheim musical as we know
I agree.
Sondheim musicals. And Guys and Dolls. I mentioned it briefly before, but I think it's a really fun show. It's why it keeps coming back, and it feels like a snapshot of a period in time that didn't actually exist, but that we wish did.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like it for that reason, and the music is really great.
Cool.
There's a lot of Sondheim out there. I love Into the Woods. I've done it twice. I think it's a great show. Some smaller ones that I really love. I loved You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. I thought that was great. That introduced the new version anyway, introduced the world to Kristen Chenoweth. I thought she was brilliant in that. And the music's fun. Wicked's a great show. I mean, we never mentioned Chicago. It's been running forever and it won Best Picture.
Yeah. We've pretty much steered clear of Lerner and Loewe with My Fair Lady and
did they do Camelot? Yeah, you mentioned Camelot.
Yeah, I did mention Camelot. Yeah.
There's one playing right now that I love called Come From Away. That is, it's the story of the little town in Newfoundland that all of the planes were diverted to on 9/11. Wow. It's told by about a dozen people. They play multiple characters. The set is just a bunch of chairs. Wow. It's on Broadway right now. It is absolutely wonderful. Wow. I loved that play.
Oh, wow.
And there was another one that I saw. This wasn't on Broadway. It was off Broadway, but it's, Here Lies Love, which is the musical about Imelda Marcos, written by David Byrne and Fatboy Slim.
Holy moly.
Just played in Seattle. I don't know where its life is going to be next, but I saw it at the Public Theater and the audience never sits down. You're in just a big room and the set is moving around you and you're walking, as this like 90-minute disco show is happening and it's just immersive and beautiful and cool.
Tony and Tina's musical.
Right. Oh, come on. But yeah, I mean, there's too many to name. There's so many.
Monty Python, The Holy Grail.
The Spamalot.
Spamalot, producers, Young Frankenstein.
Sure.
And You Get Your Gun.
And You Get Your Gun.
La Cage aux Folles.
Yeah, there's a bajillion great musicals. The point being, go see all of them. Birdie. But we're down to 3. And the 3 are Hamilton, Les Mis, and West Side Story.
How do we vote? Just say it?
Can we, all right, you want to just say it on the 3?
If the one we think it is, and if it's the same for all 3 of us?
Yeah. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3.
West Side Story.
Oh!
Whoa, people of the world, wow. We did it. We did it. I thought we'd have at least one Hamilton, and of course that is a great transformative show, but it's West Side Story.
Yeah.
For all of you out there who didn't think it was West Side Story, too bad.
All you gang members who were on pins and needles wondering if we were going to honor your contribution to the culture.
Oh, it's pins and needles.
But that's it. It has it all. It's a great story. It's timeless. It deals with issues that we're still dealing with now and probably will deal with forever for as long as people exist. Sadly.
Everyone knows at least one of the songs.
Like Romeo and Juliet, its point of view is both pro instant love and romance and con because of the tragic consequences. And it's funny.
Yes.
It's got really funny stuff in it.
Great sense of humor. I think America is I would put that up. That's my favorite song from the show.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just
so well done.
Oh my goodness. It just, it makes my heart sing. And I hope it makes your heart sing too. Because it is the best musical of all time.
Yeah.
Asked and answered.
Bill Corbett, thanks for coming on the show with
guys.
us.
Yeah.
What a treat. That was really fun.
This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're glad to have you back. Tell everybody, is there anything you want people to go see or listen to or anything that you want to promote? This is coming out we're recording this on a Friday. It's going to come out on Tuesday. So we're close.
Just keep a look on rifftracks.com. We're always putting stuff out there. In June, we'll be doing another live Fathom Events movie show around the country. Just check where it's playing near you.
Which are so much fun.
Yeah.
Those Fathom events are a blast.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we're lucky to do it.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. This topic is settled. Who was it that sent this one in to us?
Thank you to Sammy Rose for suggesting this topic on Reddit a very long time ago. We finally got to it.
Yes.
And we got it right as we do all of our
I think the fact that all 3 of us said it, I think means we definitely got it right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This topic is covered, but please reach out to us on Twitter at We Got This Tweets. Check out the Maximum Fun subreddit, or
email us at wegotThisPodcast@gmail.com, or go to our Facebook group. We'll have pictures and videos from our personal performances of Broadway shows. That is facebook.com/groups/WeGotThisPodcast. Thank you to producer Ken Plume, researcher Kate McManus, graphic designer Uri Kelman, and QA engineer Jen Alba.
And thank you, of course, to our musicians Jonathan Dinerstein and Mike Furman for their score and theme song, respectively. And thanks to you, our listeners, for giving us an opportunity to sit and talk about things that we are very passionate about. This week, it was Broadway musicals, one of my favorite passions. And next week, I don't know how we'll get to one of yours.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and for supporting us during the Max Fun Drive. It was a really great time.
Yes.
For Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
For Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin, and don't worry, everybody. We got this.
We got this.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned.
Listener supported.